This time around on Author's Corner with me, Kate Delaney, here on America Tonight. She's in our virtual green room, Hope Raymond. Her book, Where in the World is God? Boy, that's a big question. So, Hope, thanks for coming on.
Oh, thank you. This is my pleasure, I tell you.
What inspired you to write Where in the World is God?
I suppose it just really started in childhood. I loved the outdoors when I was a child. I spent a lot of time out there, and as I grew and became more mature in teenage years and after, I realized that that we were really hurting the environment badly by the choices we were making, and so it's been growing through time, and we just don't seem to see that that we are the consciousness for the universe, and we have to make good decisions relative to the environment or who's going to do it. I mean, no other living creature has the frontal lobe that we have, and the ability to have a higher consciousness that grows through time, because our human consciousness with every generation grows. It's not just static even. So we are absolutely crucial for the ongoingness of the world.
Yeah. Along those same lines, you must have made some discoveries during the course of writing this book that maybe surprised you, something you didn't know about. Did you come across anything like that?
Oh, a lot of things, I guess. But I think the one thing that I didn't realize in the beginning, but it kind of grew through time, is that we are the consciousness for the universe, which is, I know I mentioned before. But that is crucial, because if we don't see that, then we think, well, we can get away with it, something else is going to happen. But if you don't have a higher consciousness making decisions and carrying them out, it's not going to happen. I mean, we just have to be more serious in the way we take our consideration of what works for the environment as well as for ourselves.
Yeah, and you talk about that in your book, and I'd be remiss not to mention this. You've led such an interesting life. You traveled for 3 months across 9 different countries.
Yes.
Wow, what was that adventure like?
Oh, well, that was fun. That was when I turned age 70, believe it or not, and I decided I wanted to just treat myself to go to a number of places that I'd never visited before. And so I took off by myself for 3 months, and what I really did, I sat down with a globe and thought, where do I want to go, and that's the way I decided the countries I went to, and it was a fabulous trip for me. It was really great, and I did write a book following that. I don't know if you were aware of it or not, called
Yes.
4 Moons. Yes.
Yeah, 4 Moons. Did you have a favorite country that you went to?
I don't think I can say that.
Hard.
I don't know. I love the eastern countries, but more as a general thing. I don't call any particular one that was more interesting to me than another. So they all had their own character, obviously.
Right, absolutely. And so in your book, it's interesting because I thought about you traveling and deciding, I don't care, I'm 70, I'm going to look at this globe, I'm going to go do it, and you did it, and you had a great time. And younger people a lot of times will jump into that if they can. And you dedicated your book to the millennial generation. Why did you do that? What's so different about them for you?
Yeah, well, of course, every generation brings new genes into the world. We know that. And the reason it's the millennials is that they are the generation that are now, in their 20s or 20s and 30s, and they're the latest generation, and they have what the world needs now. I mean, when we came into the world needed what we brought into the world. We weren't aware of it so much, but today, if you look at the millennials, who are often not accepted very well by some elders, and that because they don't want to follow the way we've been going. They want to make their own decisions and think there are better ways of doing things, which I think, bothers a lot of people. But that's exactly what we need. They are onto they brought in the genes with them that are needed now. That's exactly the reason.
Yeah. And I want to go back to your book, too. And again, you can get this book on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, of course, wherever you can find books. Where in the World is God? Hope Raymond, that's who we're speaking to. And you actually divided the book into 3 sections. How did you tackle the big subject?
Yes. Well, the first section is goes back into history, and I've dealt with the development of consciousness through time, of human consciousness in general, because it's very, very interesting, and I had no idea what it was going to be like when I did this. But you go through the period of religious way of looking at life, where God is responsible for everything that happens, and then it moves into, then of course later science comes along and kind of challenges that. And and then we come to the present time, where I think that, both science and religion certainly are still present with us, but we realize that that humanity, as I mentioned earlier, has the carries the consciousness for the whole universe, and if we don't make good choices for the future of the universe, then who will? Because there is no other living form that has the higher consciousness and the ability to grow it that we do.
Boy, that's the truth. So, and I think you've said it and weaved it in this conversation, weaved it throughout this conversation. But what do you hope the takeaways are for anyone who reads your book?
Well, the number one is to accept, and maybe people do, but I kind of not so sure, accept the fact that we do have this huge responsibility of carrying consciousness in making decisions for the future of our land. And I think we tend to think, oh, well, it'll take care of itself over time or something, and without really seriously understanding that unless we do something, nothing's going to happen. And we've got to get in there and take more responsibility for for global warming and the many ways in which we're mucking up the environment and dumping stuff into the oceans and the in all kinds of ways we are just fooling around with the environment.
Yeah. What's your next book about?
I don't have anyone in mind at the moment. I don't know if I will be writing any more or not, but I do have 2 shelves of journals that I've kept for a long time, and I may go through some of those and see if there's anything worth bringing to the fore then. But at the moment, I'm not doing anything like that.
I love it. So interesting. Hope Raymond, Where in the World is God? Thanks for joining us on the show.
Thank you, Kate. I enjoyed it muchly.
Wow, so interesting to me that, especially when she talked about, and it was too difficult to pick out the countries, which I understand, but can you imagine traveling alone for 3 months across 9 different countries, and she's 70 years old and not at all intimidated by that? And you can tell that she cares about people and she cares about what the future is, and that was the point of this book. She's interested in philosophy and education and psychology and religion and obviously writing and whatnot. And her book, Four Moons, talks about those adventures. And I'll tell you what, it makes you want to just grab your suitcase and figure out a way to make that happen. And I think the more that, and all of us know that, even when you travel around this great country, you connect with people more and you understand their plights, you understand their joys. You just get that because you soak it in as you're moving about the planet. And I really got that sense from Hope for sure. And in her book, that was the idea. The idea is what happens in the future, what happens in the world, what happens to culture, what happens for future generations. So wonderful, I think, her spirit, without a doubt. So we thank her for joining us and you for listening to this interview and this show. Make it count, everybody.